Guys, this is easily one of the best urban fantasies out there! Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I'm Andrew, and today I've got a why you should read. But before we get into that, make sure you're liking and subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates when I put out new content. Also, make sure you're checking the description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all my social media and information about my Patreon. And guys, this one is one that I have been meaning to do for years. The channel isn't even years old, but, I mean, frankly, I've been reading this series for years. And I finally finished it. And this is the Alex Verus series by Benedict, Jaka. And this is an urban fantasy that, it's popular, but it always plays second fiddle to the Dresden Files. Which, don't get me wrong, the Dresden Files are the big bad of the urban fantasy, just kind of genre. But, like, Benedict Jaka is close. Like, Alex Verus is very, very good. In fact, on the front covers is a blurb from Jim Butcher saying Dresden would like Verus. This is on pretty much, I think, all of the Alex Verus books. So my job today is to tell you why you should read the Alex Verus series. And to start it off, well, it sticks the landing. I 100% believe that for a 12-book urban fantasy series, to stick the landing as well as this series did is just chef's kiss. So good. Also, if you are craving more Dresden, I know we've got a novella coming out, but like if you're caught up on Dresden and you're just kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs, trying to find the next series to like just kind of pull you in for urban fantasy, I highly recommend that you pick up the Alex Verus series. There's a lot of similarities between Dresden and Verus, kind of. And what Benedict Jaka, the author here, has done is if you take like the first 4, maybe 5 or 6 of the Dresden books, and then you kind of just ignore everything that comes after, and you kind of strip away a lot of the stuff. And imagine if you took Dresden and you hyper-focused in on that White Council and all the shenanigans and crap that they put Dresden through. You hyper-focus in on that, and you've kind of got Alex Verus. And so essentially, Alex is a mage. And in this world, you've got mages and you've got adepts. The mages can, of course, they're more magic users, while the adepts are more of a one-trick pony. Like, one has, a magical portal that can store stuff, or they can, fling fire. The point is they're weaker, and they're all treated as second-class citizens within this world. Additionally, you've got your light mages and your dark mages. But what's really interesting about this, which this is set in London, by the way, I should preface, is the fact that really the only difference is how they go about doing things. Because just because they call themselves the light mages doesn't mean that these are good people. And so basically Alex is a mage, and his gift or his power is he's a seer. And so he can see into the future, and he uses this to great versatility. However, for a mage, Alex is very weak. So throughout the series, we kind of see him using guile and just kind of tricking people or using misdirection to beat his enemies. And then also taking problems and just kind of kicking them down the road until later in the series where they inevitably become a problem. And then he has to rise to the occasion and just start dealing with all this garbage that the series has been throwing at you. It's really, really interesting. But his origins, essentially, was at a very young age, he is approached by a dark mage, Richard Drock. And this dark mage kind of takes him and 3 other people in to be apprentices. Well, the thing about being a dark mage's apprentice is, it's in the name. They're dark mages. They're not good people. They're obsessed with power. They don't form kind of bonds, which is one of the main differences between the light and the dark mage. And, so basically he's kind of with Richard for a number of years. The training is brutal. It does a number on him just from a psychological perspective, and this and that. And then all of a sudden, it hits the fan. He kind of breaks away from Richard. Richard goes missing, and then the series kind of picks up from about 5 years from that point, where he went to the light mages, and the light mages just kind of thumbed their nose at him and told him to get lost. You're a dark mage. And he's like, no, I left my master. And they're like, you're a dark mage, and you stink, and you smell funny, and you've got nasty feet, is what they told Alex Verus. Probably not. I mean, they might have. But, so Alex is just kind of like, okay, fine, I don't want anything to do with either of you. I'm going to open up a magical shop. And I'm just going to sell magical curios. And, basically, this is where we meet Alex within this series. And an adept, or a cursed girl, kind of joins in, and finds him, and her name is Luna. And Luna kind of ends up becoming his apprentice. We meet other characters throughout this series. It's very, very interesting. Never in any of these books does it just feel like we're retreading old ground. Instead, it's a very, very steady progression of cause and effect. And where Alex ends up, and like from where he starts to how he ends up, is very, very interesting. I can't believe, like, how did we get here? Because, I mean, like I said, Alex is very, very weak, and a lot of the problems is people are constantly telling him in this series, hey, you're writing checks that your butt can't cash. Like, you don't have the power to do what you want to do. You want to stay on the outside? Great. Have the power to back it up. Make people leave you alone. Because that's really all Alex wants. He's like, hey, leave me alone. I've got my adepts. I've got my apprentices. I've got my little found family here thing kind of going on. You guys keep coming to me and messing with me. If you would just leave me alone, I would leave you alone. And nobody believes him because he's a dark mage. And so it's really, really interesting to see how he progresses. This deals with, you know, there's a lot of political elements to this because at some points, like, he's constantly dealing with this white council who doesn't trust him because he was apprenticed to a dark mage. And it's very, very interesting to see Alex work through these problems. We've got other characters. We've got, I'm going to get this wrong, Arachna, which is just kind of one of his magical friends. It's a giant magical spider who makes fashion clothes and magical garments. Very, very interesting character. One of my favorites. It's like kind of a mentor that he can go to whenever he is seeking advice. Essentially, like, over the years, you know, magical creatures are kind of on the decline. And so Arachna is just very much hidden away. She doesn't really engage with the magical community because they want to kill her for, you know, her blood, her venom sacs, what have you, whatever you can get out of a spider. And kind of make potions and magical items and things of that nature, which is kind of why, you know, magical creatures are dying out because they've all been hunted for their parts. And so Arachna is very, very good. She likes Alex because Alex is neither light nor dark. And it's such a rewarding series. I first picked this series up, I believe, I'm gonna say 2017. And then I read books 1 through 10 within a year. And then I got burnt out on the urban fantasy genre as kind of a whole. And finally, like, you know, I've been sitting around a lot this month while the baby was born. And I've had a lot of reading time because babies sleep a lot. And so I picked up books 11 and 12, and I gave both of them 5 stars. And literally, it just made me look back on this entire series and go, man, I really wish more people were talking about this series. It is something spectacular. It is something special. It is up there, I think, with the Dresden Files. Not only is it shorter, it's 12 books, it's done, but it's got a very, very focused, because it doesn't have, like, the Fae, it doesn't have Titans, it doesn't have any of that extra stuff that kind of has elongated the Dresden Files. But at the same time, it does focus in on the magical society, on the politics, a lot of morality, a lot about, you know, what does it mean to be powerful, just some really great themes and conversations kind of built into this very special series. And overall, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of the books have like 1,500 reviews and ratings, so it's not doing poorly. It's not Dresden Files big, and I really think it should be. Because, honestly, like Jim Butcher says, I think Harry Dresden would like Alex Verus. Because Alex is very much a realist. He's like, hey, you do your thing, you let me do my thing, and we never need to talk to each other. What do you mean you're not going to leave me to myself? All right, I'm going to mess you up. And that's exactly what Alex has to do throughout this entire series. Time and again, he goes to bat for what, the people he loves. And frankly, he's like, I just want to be me, but I need the power in order to make people let me be me. It's very, very, very interesting. I will say Alex is not a shining paragon like, a lot of fantasy protagonists. He is very much a gray character. Because he was trained by a dark mage, but is also very much involved with the white mages. He kind of rides that kind of gray line where he is unwilling to commit to either side. And I think we get a lot of really interesting dynamic conversations about good and evil morality through this series. It is amazing. I highly recommend you pick it up because, frankly, he's got a very narrow mindset with his magic. But at the same time, the way he uses it is very entertaining. Like, he can basically see different paths. And, like, say he wants to throw a knife. And he's like, well, what if I throw it there? And what if I throw it here? And he can see the result of that thrown knife. And then he can make himself replicate it. So he's very proficient with, like, projectile weapons. And because he's a lot weaker, he relies on magical implements and things of that nature to kind of punch above his weight class. It's a very, very good series, and I cannot recommend this enough. I read books 1 through 10 on ebook, and then I did 11 and 12 on audio. And it was the same narrator. He did an amazing job, so it's very, very enjoyable on audio as well. So you can feel reassured that however you read this, you are in for a good reading experience, guys. That said, I hope I have given you enough information to want to give this series a try, especially my urban fantasy lovers. Guys, if you are missing Dresden, please reach for Benedict Jaka's Alex Verus series. I can almost guarantee you won't be disappointed. That said, guys, that's really all I've got here for you. So, till next time, peace out, stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.